assuming, again, it's a lot of ifs, if government or governments know, and there seems to be some collusion on some level between governments, because you would assume that Russia, even though they're in an adversarial position geopolitically to the U.S. Well, China's supposed to be our friend, who knows? But they would be in possession with a lot of the same information. There's this idea, and I'm sure you've heard it, which is like, yeah, they fight out here, but behind the scenes, they have to have some sort of collusive effort to be on the same page about, I know you're saying they're in a hostile race for technology, but at the same point, there has to be some understanding about who's fair and who's friendly and who's not.
A lot's been explained to me on this. And so my understanding is that there was a point in time where Russia and the U.S. shared information on this topic. And there was more of an understanding.
And it's off now.
And that communication broke down over the last decade or so.
Interesting.
And so it's much more competitive now. But
well,
the biggest concern is China, from what I've been told.
Sure, I feel that too. So I guess what I was after was, let's say, again, playing a game. She knows, Putin knows. I can't think of the guy who was running UK at the time. Our current president knows. Like they know enough, and they know more than we do. Do you feel personally, especially as a U.S. citizen, do you believe the public has a right to know, or do you sort of buy that this information needs to be kind of doled out in pieces?
I think we're at a point now that this film is out there where the president can more comfortably step to the microphone and tell the world we're not alone in the universe. And
Age of Disclosure 2.
Age of Disclosure 2.
We're onto the sequel already.
Perhaps, yeah. And I
tell me you're not thinking about it.
Oh, I'm thinking about it. Yeah. I'm not the only one thinking about it.
I bet.
And
congratulations.
Thank you. But the other thing that I think is important about that moment, it's not just telling the public we're not alone in the universe. I think a sitting president needs to tell the public that the U.S. intends to lead the way and why, and like what's at stake. So if you go back to the last big technology race, the space race, Kennedy did that big speech and said, we're going to win the space race. And here's why. He says technology, space technology specifically, he says, like nuclear technology before, it has no conscience of its own. It's up to man, whether it's used for good or for evil. And so it's important, it's critical that the U.S. play a role in making sure it's used for the betterment of mankind and not to create, a new sea of war. That was the whole speech. That was the context. That was, I think the same context is here, but on steroids.
So I could see the opening of Age of Disclosure 2. It's Kennedy standing there at the lectern. Sorry, I'm already directing your film. You did a great job. I find myself wondering, because I certainly see what's going on in what I call a post-truth age, the age that we're in now, the digital age, where even if somebody like a U.S. president stands up at a microphone, I feel like a lot of people don't even want to know. And I don't mean they don't want to know like they want to stick their fingers in there. They just don't really want to deal with the consequence of what that information would lend itself. And then you touch in the film about sort of people getting into the spiritual, religious question of what would happen if you suddenly say, yeah, there's these people. Does that change the interpretation of the Bible and all this type of stuff? Is that a fair paraphrase of what?
Yeah. And I think, Congressman Andre Carson, Democrat from Indianapolis, he makes a great point in there. He says he thinks it's difficult for people to like wrap their head around this because it challenges their beliefs. It challenges their sense of reality.
Do you think, sorry to interrupt you, but do you think tomorrow somebody gets up and everybody believes it?
Yeah.
Right.
I personally don't think at this point in time, in 2025, people are going to lose their head and start jumping out of windows or questioning all their beliefs. I just don't see that as something that will happen. It's not in the film, but Congressman Burchett, who's in the film, made a point in the interview that it just didn't end up in the final cut. But he said, hell, he's like, I don't believe it would wreck religion. He says, I believe Jesus died for aliens too. Like that's his outlook. He's like, it's, maybe mankind is all over the place. Maybe there's all different kinds of mankind.